I don't remember the guy's name, but he was the one who was going to be tried with you and was,
Oh, Rochelle McGee. Rochelle McGee.
yes, what became of him?
You know, Rochelle McGee observed last year the 50th anniversary of his imprisonment.
Oh.
He has been in prison for over 50 years. And there are so many other political prisoners from that era who are still behind bars. And of course, prisons are designed to make people in the so-called free world forget about those who are locked up. I'm so sad when I think about, you know, the years of this man's life that could have been so productive. But then, of course, yesterday, was it yesterday, day before yesterday, Eddie Conway was released after 44 years behind bars. And if any of you missed Democracy Now!, go online and look at the program from, it would have been yesterday. I was on today, so. Yesterday. It was yesterday. And today is Thursday. So it would have been the show on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Eddie Conway, after 44 years in prison, you would expect that people would be bitter and angry, and he was just so beautiful, so amazing, such a beautiful narrator of what happened inside and what was happening on the outside. So check out the Democracy Now. But thank you so much for asking about Rochelle.
My name is John Felder, and I write for a local community newspaper. And I write a lot about our people as racial pathology, my racial plan, which I got footage from Malcolm X. I spent last week at Amiri Baraka's funeral with Jesse Jackson and Malak and Ilyasa, and yesterday with Sister Adelaide Sanford. I was brought to a point of how do you feel when you think of Mumia Abu Jamal, who was wrongfully convicted of the murder of police officer Faulkner when the caliber of the weapon was different from the gun he was carrying. He actually went to aid Officer Faulkner, but they wanted their pound of flesh. How do you feel about him having found your freedom?
We have been struggling and organizing around the demand for Mumia's freedom for so many decades. And Mumia Abu Jamal is one of the most remarkable figures of our history. He is responsible for the rejuvenation of the anti-death penalty movement all over the world. And I'm glad you mentioned Mumia, because just yesterday, Congress refused to confirm Obama's nomination of attorney Adik Bailey because he was his nominee for the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. And this attorney, who works for the NAACP fund and who is ahead of all of the litigation that they do, his name was on the documents submitted by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund around Mumia's case. And so they organized to prevent him from getting the position. This is the Fraternal Order of Police doing that work. And I think that it's our responsibility to counter it You know, when Obama tries to do something good, we really need to get behind that and recognize that if we allow organizations like the FOP to determine the fate of Mumia Abu Jamal and Assata Shakur and all of those who've been framed up on charges of killing police, then we'll never be able to deal with stop and frisk. We'll never be able to protect people from racist state violence.
Hi, thank you both. I'm Nicolette Gatewich, and it's lovely to be here. I'm quite exhausted, but it is a blessing and an honor to be in both of your presences. Thank you for the film, it's brilliant. My question, I believe, is kind of a personal question, not an academic question. It's about perception. So for you, you know, the film narrative, she came to the courtroom as a free person. I don't know who said it in the film. It transformed all assumption. It changed all perception of the trial. And then for you, how did you stay sane? How did you stay yellow instead of red? See what I'm saying? Does that make sense? When you came out? Okay.
The first question. Who said that in the film is the question. I mean, in a trial, if you come in, let's take Rochelle by example. The pictures of Rochelle, the footage of Rochelle, he shuffles into the courtroom, chained, surrounded by guards, sits down, he's then chained to the chair. The jury automatically has a sense of guilt. So to be able to walk into the courtroom, dressed stylishly as well, but it gives a different perception. And in fact, one of the things that I was able to do is the woman who was the forewoman, Mary Timothy, of the jury, she kept notes, and she also kept an audio diary, which we were not able to use for the film, but she has all of these tapes. They're sitting in a library at Stanford. And I listened to the tapes. And it was really instructive to hear, she said, at the beginning of the trial, of course, you pay your taxes. You walk across the street on the green, not the red. So you assume guilt. But it was over the course of the trial, seeing Angela come to court every day, she felt like she got to know her. Her family was there. And it became, here's this woman, well-educated, the more full you, not just the two-dimensional Angela that was in the paper all the time. And it literally transformed that whole jury's perception of reasonable doubt related to you, Angela Davis, 26-year-old philosophy grad student.
But also the bail campaign was so important, because had I not gotten out on bail, I would have been walking into that courtroom with a prison guard and handcuffed. And so that the bail campaign that was successful, you saw this story of Roger McAfee, who agreed to put up his farm in which is located in what was then Ku Klux Klan infested Fresno County. And what the film doesn't indicate is that the Klan began to attack his farm, killing his animals and so forth. So when you see in the film, you see, some of the black guys with guns in the farm. Well, they're protecting Roger's farm from the Ku Klux Klan. So that the success of that campaign meant everything in the world. And I stayed sane. How I stayed sane? Well, that's a really good question, because imprisonment is designed to break you. Yeah, exactly. And first of all, because there were so many people on the outside who was supporting me, And even though I was in solitary confinement for almost the entire time, people came to visit me. I really felt the presence of my community. Not only my family, but people with whom I worked, and then people whom I had never met before, who came to visit me from all over the world. James Baldwin came to visit me when I was in. I mean, that was such an amazing moment. Nina Simone came to visit me. So I was okay. I was okay. I learned how to do yoga. I practiced yoga. I learned how to meditate. I really learned the importance of self-care when I was in jail as well, something that is important for all of us to do. And sometimes we need it even more if we are out here in the so-called free world than we do if we are behind bars. But I'll say again that I wasn't as concerned about myself because I had a lot of support. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew whatever happened to me, I would not be alone. And so many people who are behind bars are alone. Oftentimes, even their families give up on them. Their friends give up on them. So I was more concerned about everyone else than I was about myself.
Thanks for coming. It's totally rad. Really great use of NYU's funding and planning for once. But I wanted to ask, it seems like in the past, like groups like the Red Guard, Young Lords, like Third World Women's Alliance, Third World Liberation Front, like all of SNCC, they were all so abundant and so active, but it doesn't seem to be the same today. There's like a lot of these groups seem to have dissolved or merged and then dissolved, and they just don't seem to be as easy to find and as active. And I was wondering if you could explain more.
Well, time passes, things change. And while we don't necessarily see the movements that were active during the 60s, 70s, there are a lot of new movements. They may not be as visible, but that's in large part because the media have learned not to give the kind of coverage to radical activist organizations. You see, even though we didn't have social media, and we couldn't communicate as readily as you can communicate today, the media did a lot of good work for us. Because even when they covered our struggles in ways that were very negative and very biased, we knew how to read the media. And so it actually helped to inspire people in other parts of the country to do that work. Now we have to depend on our own ability to communicate because the media is not going to do that work for us. But there are so many movements. The movement against the prison industrial complex, the abolitionist movement. It's all over the country and other parts of the world. There are powerful education, not incarceration movements. There are a lot of feminist formations in LGBT communities. There are amazing groups. There's among trans activists and people who support them, there's amazing work that is happening. As a matter of fact, I think the movements today are even more exciting than they were in the 60s because they're more complicated, they're more nuanced, they reflect our awareness of the interconnectedness of struggles. I often point out when I first became involved in the Black movement, I the slogan was "Free the Black Man." And so we always said, "Free the black man." And we, who were the women, did not even know that we weren't even talking about our own freedom. So I think it's, but of course, movements would not have developed had we not gone through that phase. And so look around. There are a lot of exciting things going on. Learn from history, but don't be mesmerized by history. Because you see, what you see is often a romanticization of what actually happened. And what actually happened was really hard work. And that is what needs to happen today.
Hi, thank you so, ooh, that's really loud, sorry. Thank you so much for being here. This was really a remarkable, film. How about, is this okay? Okay. What struck me the most was during opening statements when you called out the patriarchy, the male chauvinism. That really struck a chord, and I think that's one of the most powerful little segments of the film for me personally, because if you look around the room, you have a wide array of identities. And so I would like to ask you, for us that are dealing with, on one hand, being academic, burgeoning professionals, intellectuals, but also having learning more about radical thought, revolutionary ideas, and also coming from marginalized communities such as African American, Latino, undocumented, LGBT, so on and so on. How do you reconcile those identities and work together?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess the first question one would ask is whether those identities need to be reconciled. Oftentimes we assume that we can only get together if we're the same. And we don't realize, as Audre Lorde said, difference can be a powerful force. Difference can bring people together. And that is, even if you think about the organization, some of the movements that were mentioned, people think about the Black Panther Party as a black organization. It was not an all-black organization. There were Asian people in the Black Panther Party. There were white people in the Black Panther Party. It was about the political aspiration. So we came together around a goal, around an idea, around a way that we imagine the future. And if we think about it in that way, then we don't have to worry about reconciling differences. We don't have to worry about reconciling contradictions. We can live with the contradictions and make the contradictions and the differences productive. That's, I think, the best kind of movement.